Well, first of all, hello, everyone. While the room fills up, I'm Travis Keys. I'm chairman of APA New York. It is an absolute pleasure today to have PhotoShelter with us. And we're looking to do a lot of fun, ongoing things with them because I am a huge fan of theirs. And I think the very first site I ever built for my photography was on PhotoShelter. So I've tried every single one from Wix to Squarespace, everything. And for some reason, PhotoShelter just understands what we want and has everything from deep storage to uploading raws to understanding marketing to understanding if you want to sell stuff offline, if you want to have galleries for people, if you want to have proof sites, if you want to have, I mean, they do it all. If I just want to send someone a small file or a big file, or have access to only part of this, it's just insane what they do, and the templates. And the best is they actually have the best customer service I've ever used, other than, well, Amazon's good too, but they're fantastic. They're a lot more personable. So I want to thank Rachel and Caitlyn for joining us today. I'm so excited that you guys are here. I drove 7 hours. I'm on my way driving to Florida, and I got up at 6 in the morning so I could check into my hotel and set up everything and make sure my Wi-Fi was good to be here for this wonderful webinar today. So I want to thank you guys so much. Deb, when she first came to me, and said, "Hey, say hi, Deb."
Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here. Really excited to have you here. And keep your eye on our APA emails, because we have a bunch of really great and more great stuff coming up. So,
do you have teasers of any of them?
We have a great event coming up with for the next one in March and one in April. We have great events coming up sponsored by Hanamule.
Oh, yeah.
And I learned to pronounce it correctly. I was always saying Hanamule. It's Hanamule.
Hanamule. First of all, it's a friend of mine, Esteban.
Yeah. Esteban's going to be speaking on March 22nd. We also have this really fabulous photographer speaking on March 11th named Cornell Watson, who has a really, really fabulous work, award-winning work, and he has a really great story. He was working in HR like a year ago and got laid off because of the pandemic, and he was already working on his photography on the side and started going as a photographer full-time during the pandemic, and is doing assignments for all these top publications and everything, winning awards and stuff. And so he's going to talk about his work, and he's going to talk about how to improve your work. And other things too. So just keep your eye out. We have a bunch of great stuff.
His story is fantastic. His work's great, but his story is fantastic, and I'm really excited about that one. And to let you guys know, we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff, some deals that we have for our APA members with PhotoShelter. And for those of you that are not APA members yet, you won't know about our special behind-the-scenes members-only discounts, but I think PhotoShelter might have something for you at the end of this. But if you want to learn more about APA, please check out apanational.org, because we're photographers advocating for photographers, and we're there to give you knowledge and advocacy and and networking and all kinds of stuff that in a community that is hurting right now. We're there to make that community smaller and support one another and really look out for one another. And that's why I'm so excited to bring Rachel and Caitlyn in today. And we will have a Q&A at the end. So there's a little button down there if you look down below, and it says Q&A. Put your questions in there, and I will be watching for them, and I'll ask the questions at the end once they're done with their presentation. Guys, I want to thank you for joining us here at APA. I'm going to hand it over to you. Rachel and Caitlyn, please take it over.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Can everybody see my screen all right?
It's loading. Yep, you're in.
Okay, great. So again, thank you so much to Travis and to Deborah for having us today. I'm Rachel Reiss. I am the Customer Marketing Manager at PhotoShelter. And today I have with me Caitlyn Edwards, our Community Marketing Manager. Hi, Kate. Thanks for being here with me. And welcome to today's webinar, 10 Ways to Earn More with Online Photo Sales. So a little bit of background. We put this webinar together almost a year ago now, last spring, when the pandemic kind of really first took hold, if you will. And we were receiving so many questions from PhotoShelter members asking us, how can I continue to stay creative during this time? How can I stay motivated? How can I keep picking up my camera and make sure that I'm continuing to keep shooting? But probably the question that we got the most was, how can I continue to generate revenue? So how can I generate revenue when I'm not being booked for new jobs? How can I generate revenue when I'm working from home or stuck at home? And how can I generate revenue when I'm separated from many of the things that inspire me the most? So we're so glad you asked. We hope everyone likes gifts. We've got a few sprinkled in here today. We're going to try to keep things kind of light and fun. So one simple answer is online sales. And regardless of whether or not, we're dealing with a global pandemic, if online sales weren't already a part of your revenue strategy, they are a great way to earn some extra income. And this is a topic that is really kind of near and dear to us at PhotoShelter. We've been helping photographers sell online since 2005. We were one of the first services to offer this kind of all-in-one solution for photographers. Our roots were really in cloud storage, but we were also offering back then distribution and sales. And this is a topic that a lot of people come to PhotoShelter for, to be able to sell their work. So we're really excited to bring you this presentation today. So I think the first half of our presentation is going to be more focused on the different ways that you can set up to sell. And then the second half will be focused a little bit more on like marketing strategies and some tactics and some ideas you can start implementing to open up your work to a new audience. I did want to also mention that everything we're going to be talking about today is really applicable to all sorts of photographers, but most of our examples will be PhotoShelter specific, and we will be talking a little bit about how some of these things work with our tools specifically too. Okay, so let's jump right in to number one, offer prints and products. So every photographer has work that's timeless. What are some of your favorite shots that people in your network might want to hang on their wall? Selling prints and products allows you to present your work in a new way your customers will love. So wall art is huge right now. I don't know if anyone else has been seeing this, but wall art's big. People are out there looking for photography to decorate their homes with. And prints and products are just such a great way to set up for some of that more passive income.
And so many people also, Rach, are in the process or have already moved, which has been really interesting. So I think it's a huge opportunity for everyone to just keep that in mind. And if there's something that you thought about, selling in the past, why not throw it up and see if it lands with maybe some of your friends or family that have relocated because of the pandemic.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you want to consider offering stuff outside of just like, oh, I'll just price for all the different print sizes. Think about offering framed and unframed print options, canvas, and also products like magnets or mugs or puzzles. Over the past year, puzzling just had a resurgence. Again, another thing, I was puzzling a lot in 2020. So those are kind of another great way to earn a little bit extra with a sale. So believe that you can do it. So this is an example here from Andrew Rowe's PhotoShelter website. And this is what a buyer would see when they click that add to cart button. And so he's set up to sell both prints and products. And here you can see that he's selling not just prints in multiple finishes, but he's also set up for metallic prints as well. And those prices that you see there, those are prices that he sets from the photographer's admin area. He gets to decide exactly how much he's selling or how much he's charging for each individual print, download, or anything else that he's offering. Another thing to keep in mind here with selling prints is that with PhotoShelter, you can set up for this to be totally automated and just really hands-off through working with one of our integrated print labs, or you can set up for what we call self-fulfillment. So if you want to have more control over that entire process, including like what the packaging looks like when your print arrives, to your buyer, then self-fulfillment is an option that you can think about as well. And this on the same PhotoShelter website is in the shopping cart. So this is where when the buyer adds to cart, they have more control over like the crop of the print as well. So they can, have a little bit more control over the exact finished product that they're after. Okay. Sell digital downloads. So many print labs were temporarily closed due to COVID-19. Here at PhotoShelter, our labs were dealing with closures for months. They were closing and then reopening. We might not be dealing with that sort of thing now, but there's still some things to keep in mind there. We work with Printique, Adorama's printing division, formerly Adorama Picks. And for instance, they're closing for a couple weeks in April for Passover. So just something to think about. You can always sell digital downloads regardless of what might be happening with the print lab you like to work with. So downloads offer your clients the opportunity to print later or to share on social media and with friends and family now. Basically, selling downloads gives your clients options. So this is a quote here from Grover Sanchagrin, our co-founder and GM. People will even pay more for a download because they see value in having a digital file. So give them what they want, a lower resolution file for one price, a higher resolution file for a much larger price. Many photographers are afraid of doing this, but selling downloads can give you a competitive advantage. So you want to think about how your buyers might be using the downloads they're purchasing from you online and offer different sizes to accommodate for these use cases. So here you'll see the size requirements for some of the more popular social platforms. We actually get this question a lot. So our tech support team put this together so that they have it at the ready when people are asking. So if you know that your buyer is looking to use the image primarily on Facebook, let's say, then you know the best size to price for. Okay, another example here. We've got Ian Milam's PhotoShelter website, and this is what the buyer sees when they click add to cart, and he's offering personal use downloads here. That's what we call them at PhotoShelter, personal use downloads, just to differentiate between the more formal types of like licensing, which we'll go over in a moment. But it's easy to see here that he has set up for personal use downloads in a range of sizes, all the way from a small 500 pixel version all the way up to the original size. And he's able to set a price for each one of those as well, as he wishes.
And one thing I want to highlight also with this example is he's actually included some descriptions about the different sizes. So this is something I think that can really help just lead your customer kind of in the right direction. Based on most of the time, if someone is purchasing something, if they know that they're going to want to print it, then they know that they're going to want to get a large size or even the original size. So, that's another way I think just to kind of help your customer really be informed and hopefully make a little bit more money in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing with PhotoShelter too, and we'll talk about packages a little bit later, is that if you want, you can set up, or depending on your client's, needs and use cases, you can think about setting up packages that offer both downloads and prints together for a set price. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. And to the point of like using these descriptions here, I think this is great. If you want to even go into more depth, we also recommend creating a custom page with something like this, where you can talk a little bit more about the sizes and like what the use cases are, and kind of educate the buyer a little bit, kind of position yourself as the authority. There's a lot of things we'll talk about today where I think you're sort of positioning yourself as the authority, as the photographer, like best at which images work best at which sizes and for what types of use cases. So you're helping the buyer kind of get over that finish line too. Okay, now we're going to jump into licensing. License your work rights managed or royalty free. So let's talk stock for a moment. Now's a fantastic time to go through your archive and see what might be a good candidate for stock photography. So look through past professional shoots, but you should also consider some of your personal work for that too. So let's talk about the difference between rights managed and royalty free. With rights managed, you're allowing your buyer to use the photo that they license from you only within the terms specified by the license. And we'll see what that looks like in just a moment. Here it is. So when you're purchasing a license from a photographer that uses PhotoShelter, when you're adding the image to cart, you get this sort of pricing calculator. And this is powered by PhotoQuote. We have PhotoQuote's pricing grid software integrated into PhotoShelter. And so all of this is running based on industry standards. So the buyer is able to select where they want to use the image, how they want to use the image, for how long, very specific usage terms. And then a price will just generate for them on the spot, where they can add to cart and check out immediately. So you can really set this up to be hands-off. We do also have a tool where you can kind of negotiate on a license with a client. So if you're not feeling like these rates are what you're hoping for, you can adjust the rates, or you can set up to negotiate. So if a client contacts you, we have a tool called Instant Sale that will allow you to do that. Now with royalty free, it's quite the opposite of rights managed. You're allowing your buyer to use the image they're licensing from you any way they like for life. So here on James Ransom's PhotoShelter website, this is a royalty free license in the shopping cart. So you can see there, it's just very simply specifying royalty free download 4,000 pixels for $4.99. Now, if this were a rights managed license, you would see all of the terms specified here in the shopping cart experience. So it's a little bit of a different, I think, experience for the buyer, and definitely as a photographer, you want to think about which is best for you. The two licensing types totally conflict with one another. So how do
And
you
Rach,
choose?
do you mind just going back one slide real
Sure.
quick? I did want to highlight. So James actually did something that Rachel had talked about earlier, and up at the top in his navigation items next to images, he has licensing info.
Yep.
So he actually, is taking advantage of the custom page feature, and again, just kind of educating people. So as much as you can, I think, be the authority and really sort of show that you have the client's best interest and you understand the different use cases. I think that's a real way to get ahead.
100%. And that's a really smart move that we'll see over the course of today's presentation, where you can use your website in seemingly simple but creative ways to make it very clear that your stuff is available for sale and how. So great point, Kate. So how do you decide rights managed or royalty free, which is right for you? There's actually a lot of information out there about this. We're going to just focus on a couple of quick things today to keep in mind. So with the rights managed, it's really about lower volume but higher rates, right? So you may not sell as frequently, but rights managed licenses have the potential to bring in much higher fees. On the flip side, with royalty free, it's kind of more about high volume and lower rates. So you may see more licensing sales with royalty free, but you probably won't be making as much per license. And I did want to mention before we leave this section that we've actually just updated the photo quote pricing grid to the latest version of the photo quote software at PhotoShelter. So now there's like 115 new, kind of more modern, up-to-date licensing categories that have been added. So anything from like licensing specifically for social media to licensing specifically for a landing page or like a software package or that sort of thing have been added into the grid. And those are things that people have been, asking for. And now you have this ability to sell in these different ways. Okay, custom packages. So we talked a little bit about this, but let's get into it in more detail. Does everybody remember picture day at school? After your picture was taken, you would get like a package. Maybe you'd have like a couple 8x10s and a couple, 4x6s and some wallet size prints. Basically, packages are allowing you to offer bulk discounts while also providing you with more control over who gets what. So here we have an example. I think this is Wolfgang Leonbacher's PhotoShelter site. And he is selling packages for these skydiving photos. So clearly the people in these photos are running here to buy these. I would be. But he is smart in that he's set up packages so that people can get a certain number of downloads for a set price instead of having to kind of, purchase one by one. Again, you can also combine prints and downloads in one package, which is another smart thing to do to kind of take the decision making out of it for your buyer. And here, this is what it looks like when a buyer is making their selection for their package. So they're kind of dragging and dropping images from a gallery into the package bundle.
And one thing that's especially cool, I think, about Wolfgang is he's actually an adventure photographer, outdoor sports, things like that. And I wouldn't say that many adventure photographers are necessarily skydiving. I'm more familiar with them in terms of rock climbing and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, he's taken advantage of the skills that he has through some of his outdoor photography and has kind of turned it into another revenue stream by, working with skydivers. Not everybody wants to skydive, so totally understandable. But, I think if you don't have that fear, it's a cool idea for sure.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And as I mentioned, offering a lower number of options for your buyers is usually going to help them decide, what to buy. So if you've priced an image with every possible print size and every product and every download size, it can be a little bit overwhelming for your buyers. So packaging stuff together for one set rate is really a good idea to, again, take some of the decision making out of it for them. So you, again, can also consider packages that combine both prints and downloads. And going back to this whole idea of like positioning yourself as the authority, best which images will look the best at which sizes. So this is another thing where you're going to like maybe make a package of only specific sizes because you think this image is good for those sizes and not for others. So another thing where like you kind of want to lean on your chops when you're deciding how to set that up. Okay, so we just talked about a few different ways you can set up to sell, and now we're going to run into some of the like more strategic things you can do when it comes to selling. So number 5 here is make it feel exclusive. Limited edition art can amplify demand, which leads to higher prices. So think about creating a few limited or special edition prints or products and price these higher. Here we have a nice example from photographer Shannon Wild. Again, seems simple, but very smart. Just title your gallery limited edition. So people, you're just taking kind of the guesswork out of it for them. They don't have to figure out like where to find that, how to find that, looking through every gallery and every image. It's just very straightforward.
And she notes also in that other gallery, she has a little description that talks about that she selected those images as her favorites. So I think, again, that gives people a little bit more, certainty in terms of whether or not they would want to purchase these. So she does all sorts of like little psychological tricks that I think really work out for Shannon.
Yeah. And just going back to what we just said, this is another situation where you as the photographer, you really know best, you know your work the best, and you're going to be able to make specific decisions about what kind of stuff you want to offer in this way. And here's another example, very similar with Allison Wright Photography, just titling that gallery limited edition prints is a smart thing to do. And if you can match the right image with the right audience, you will be sitting on a revenue opportunity. So, okay, number 6, make discounts and promos work for you. It's hard to beat a sale or a coupon, even in this economy. Coupons are also a great reason to communicate with existing clients and get on the radars of potential new customers. So what happens now? Sounds easy, right? Oh, I should just create a coupon. How can you use discounts and promos? So just a couple of ideas. You can try delivering designed promos to your existing clients so they can easily refer you to others in style, and take things a step further by offering a discount for each referral. You can try embedding a form on your blog or your website to sign up for your newsletter and offer special discounts to those who sign up. And we've got a lot of great examples of this. Kate, I believe this was from photographer Bridget Bedore. Is that right?
Yeah, she's a Brooklyn-based portrait photographer, and I'm on an endless probably newsletter list at this point, just because I like to keep in touch with photographers who are both in and out of the PhotoShelter community. And I signed up for her newsletter, very kind of cute, personalized response. And then she also, gives you a 10% off coupon, I love you subscriber. But one thing that I think is especially great with this example is that she essentially kind of sets her value right off the bat. The 10% is really for $50 or over. So, not to say that people probably don't just get a print or two from her and maybe it's, $30 total, but I do think that having that minimum oftentimes pushes people over the edge of saying, oh, maybe I'll get one more print, or maybe I'll, get this magnet or whatever she might be offering, and give it as a gift. I think that that's a really great way of kind of pushing people to purchase a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can set that up with PhotoShelter so that people actually can't check out until they have a certain amount in their shopping cart. So that's a really great point. And here's another example. I think this is with Ian Plant.
Yeah. So he is a wildlife and landscape photographer. I think this is actually through, he sort of started a little offshoot or collective called Shutter Monkeys with other, wildlife photographers. And I was on their newsletter list. And I think this was just a random email that I got. But this was, I would say probably, I think maybe last year early on when the pandemic was first happening and everyone was starting to get locked down, and I thought it was kind of cute also that he took advantage of the circumstance, and the code was, called Stuck at Home. And he really pushed this, opportunity, I think, to kind of explore more photo education with the extra time people, weren't expecting to have. So I liked this example too.
Me too. And these are just 2 examples. There really are lots of ways that you can use discounts and promos. So again, you want to be creative, and you want to start just testing stuff. I mean, that's really what marketing is all about. We can attest. It's about testing and experimenting and seeing what works and what doesn't work. So again, these are just 2 examples, but definitely something to play around with. Now, before we leave this section, definitely want to touch on this a little bit. Do discounts devalue your work? We get this question a lot. I think from where we stand and from what where we sit, that discounts don't have to devalue your work, but you do have to know your business. You have to know the numbers, and you can craft something really smart that works for you. So it's basically like something that's well thought out, is always going to work better for you than something you just throw together real quick because you're just trying to, oh, the client can't spend that much, so let me do a discount for that person. Discounts should really always work to make you money as the photographer first. And if you're doing it right, you can set up something, you can craft something that will still work well and will still have your client feeling really good on the other side too. So without devaluing your work or your brand. So just something to think about. Again, there's a lot of information out there around whether or not discounts devalue the work that you do. And I think if you set it up right, they definitely don't have to. Number 7, sell your knowledge and experience. So coming away from photo specific sales for a sec, here's an example with Amanda Lucidon. This is her PhotoShelter website. She's got a link up in her nav to her Creative Live online course. And when you click through there, you can see you go right to Creative Live where you can actually, buy the class from her. And she's doing a class on documentary photography, which I think is great.
And she was the former, I think, official photographer for Michelle Obama. So she's got a book about it, but she's also got all of these really great, kind of behind the scenes documentary photos that I think she's really leveraged in a cool way.
Absolutely. And here's another example. I'm just going to pop out of the presentation for just a sec to show. Well, everybody can still see this, but this is Michael Bednar's PhotoShelter website, another great example of a custom page. And he is doing a workshop on getting started in photography. And just everything you need to know about it is here. There's examples, what you're going to get out of the workshop, the price, how to get in touch with him. So this is just a really nice example of a custom page and how to sell something other than photos with PhotoShelter. Okay, do you have a unique skill set or experience? You probably have more to offer than you think. As a photographer, you need to think of yourself as an expert in visual storytelling. You might be an expert in how to shoot in your specific photography genre. You might have a lot of tips and advice to share on gear, developing your personal brands, maybe even like metadata best practices. Even just sharing tips and advice on what's worked well for you in the past and for your business can be super beneficial to others. So maybe you shoot food photography and you've got a lot of great experience with like food styling, or maybe you do family portraits and you understand how to make people feel really comfortable in front of the camera. I think it's a good idea to take the time to think about how you can sell that knowledge and experience. So one way to do that is to create a YouTube or a Vimeo channel and offer subscriptions, or you could consider going the Patreon route. So here we have an example. This is Joni Simon's YouTube channel, The Bite Shot. Joni is an amazing food photographer and PhotoShelter member who's really figured out kind of how to leverage YouTube and make this work for her. And the cool thing about YouTube and Vimeo and that sort of thing is that once you like start building a following, you can start charging for advertising space and become an affiliate. And Patreon is also a great way to build relationships with your audience. So you can use this platform to offer content like your knowledge and experience in exchange for a monthly subscription.
Another cool thing I think about YouTube specifically is I do see a lot of recommendations. So Joni, this first video on the left is must have gear. And I would bet that she's probably some sort of ambassador and would get potentially a kickback through some of the links that she's probably listing in her description. So there really are ways, I think, of connecting a lot of these little things to actually make quite an impact on your revenue stream. I was looking back at a previous slide that I used of hers maybe a year ago, and she's almost doubled her subscribers in the last year. So,
amazing.
She's passed a 250,000 subscribers and, definitely gets money now from YouTube as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's done a really nice job with this. Definitely somebody to take a look at as a nice example of how to make this work for you. And here's an example with Patreon. This one I think you got, Kate, right?
Yeah, this is from Thomas Fitzgerald. And I believe this might have actually come through his newsletter as well. So, it was just kind of an FYI at the bottom of this newsletter that he had, launched a Patreon right off the bat. He says kind of what the minimum commitment would be, which is $2. I do like that he mentioned that it's less than the price of a latte a month. But, he takes advantage of this to offer things like behind the scenes content. A lot of photographers are using Patreon now to do, essentially, are able to do, like one-on-one portfolio reviews. They can do a lot of, consultations of any kind, if it's about editing, things like that. And even, kind of at the lower end of the subscription amount, a lot of like one-page PDFs that are just best practices and things like that. And I do think, depending on what you're offering, a lot of those are fairly, attainable for even a younger photographer who might just be, up and coming.
That's great. A couple of other ideas. You can think about selling ebooks with how-to information and valuable insights from your years in the industry. And this is Doreena's site, right? She's an amazing food photographer who's a really great example of this. She offers ebooks, just a wealth of knowledge on food photography and composition. We did a webinar with her actually last year. And this is from her website as well, right?
Yeah. So this is actually just a little bit more about the bundle that she's offering. Again, just kind of gives people a sneak peek. Her branding in general is really, I think, beautifully done. It's not over the top, but it does, mention, obviously, if people are getting 150 pages of content. And I feel like over the last year, I think food photographers especially are actually pushing this ebook model. I definitely think it can apply to a lot of other, specialties in photography, but I've just really seen food photography, I think, taken off in the last, 3 years, probably. I think a lot of people are really getting into it, but also a lot of the pros, I think, are totally taking advantage of the moment and offering a lot of these ebooks at, reasonable prices, but not nothing either.
Yep. Okay, a couple of others here. You can think about becoming a mentor and sell your services to help elevate others in the industry. You can reach out to a brand you've worked with in the past, or even a brand that you love, and offer to consult for them. So here you might be able to help with things like metadata tagging or archive organization, advising on their visual content strategy for their website or social media. There's plenty you could bring to the table. And again, you probably have a lot more to offer here than you think. Okay, getting into the fun stuff now. Number 8, work on your search engine optimization. So people can find you and your work easily. That leads to more website traffic. And if you're set up for sales, that means more revenue opportunities for you. Sounds pretty simple, right? So SEO is probably anything but simple, but we're going to give you 5 pretty easy places to start. So you want to make sure that your images are marked searchable so that Google and other search engines are able to crawl and index the photos. With PhotoShelter, you can toggle searchability, on and off. So really important if you want people to find your work that you're turning searchability on. And on the flip side, if you happen to shoot something for someone, it's a private gallery, you don't want to turn searchability on. You don't want those images out there. So you have, options. You can make stuff totally private, or you can get it out there so that people can find it. Focus on tidying up your IPTC metadata. Rein in your keyword strategy and give priority to fields flagged with the green SEO icon. So this green SEO icon is specific to PhotoShelter, but I'll talk about that in a sec. Just really important that you take the time to think about keywords and unique identifiers you think people might be searching for to find the images that you're trying to sell, and make sure that you're applying the proper keywords and descriptions. Within PhotoShelter, you can add and edit IPTC pretty much every field. And we have this green SEO flag on the fields that you should really be giving priority to make sure that these search engines can find your stuff.
And that includes things like keywords, the headline, the caption, stuff like that. And I will say, I think one trend that I've seen in the last couple of years is that a lot of photographers are too simple with a lot of their keywords. I'll stick with this food photographer example. If you're doing, apple or, peach or cake, you're probably not going to get far enough kind of up the ladder with SEO, because so many people have already sort of built their SEO. So if you can find another approach to, say, pink lady apple, or, apple artificial lighting, something like that, I think that can be a good thing to keep advantage
Absolutely.
to keep in mind.
Yeah, great point. You also want to ensure that you have meta descriptions and page titles filled out across your site. So a little different than applying metadata to the individual images. This is more about applying metadata to the pages of your website and to make sure that your website itself has the best chance of getting found. Custom pages, our favorite. Okay, talked about custom pages a lot. Create custom pages outlining your prices, print sizes, or embed a scheduling or booking tool so that potential clients can easily schedule a shoot with you in the future. Again, another really great way to include more indexable information on your site, especially more information that makes it super clear that your work is available for sale. And with PhotoShelter, you can create unlimited custom pages. You want to make sure whatever website provider you're using is allowing you to do that, because there's just so many great use cases for them. You're just going to want that flexibility. Set up a Google business account. So this helps boost your local SEO. Google shows specific results depending on time zone and users' location settings. So we've got an example here. Here you're really giving your potential customers more ways to reach and connect with you. So this is an example for Chris Oyoung. He's a music photographer, PhotoShelter member, and he's also PhotoShelter product manager. So we love using this example here, but he shows up number 1 for his Google business listing. And he also shows up number 2, last time I checked, for NYC music photographer. So this is just a really, really great example of somebody who has worked really hard on SEO over the years and seen it pay off. A term as simple as NYC music photographer, it's amazing for you to show up on that first page, and to show up second is just kind of insane. So really great work on his part for really plugging away at the SEO stuff over the years.
And these rankings do sometimes change. I mean,
They do.
I think
They change all the time, unfortunately. But
yeah, it's a constant battle. But I think something Chris has done is just really committed to trying to stay on top of the SEO.
Yeah.
And I think that has been, whether or not he's first or fourth, anything like that. If you're on the first page, that's a huge win. And it really is, an ongoing part of every photographer's job. If they do want, SEO and website traffic and things like that, you have to just make the time. It's not the most thrilling work sometimes, but it is, it really is worth it if you want to, get people's attention that might ordinarily not be able to find you.
Yep, absolutely. This is Chris's website, just for a little music photography inspiration. But before we head away from this section or into the next part of this section, I did want to mention that we've recently completed a lot of work at PhotoShelter on SEO. To help bring more visibility to our members and to really boost SEO for our members, to really help their work and their images get found. We've been seeing some great results of all of that. If anybody is interested in seeing exactly what we did, there's a lot of technical stuff that we did. Definitely head over to the PhotoShelter blog. You can easily find that there. Just a list of all the changes that we made to bring more visibility to PhotoShelter members' websites and PhotoShelter members' work.
And we also have a free resource for everyone. We offer free educational guides, and we did do a brand new guide last summer with just kind of focused on SEO specifically. And that's totally free, but it's more of a kind of handbook or resource that I think can be really helpful. If you feel like you've done, the first 3 things that you've done the, metadata work and things like that. If you're feeling a little stuck, that's a great resource, I think, to go find, and it is completely free. So that is on photoshelter.com under our resources tab. All of our free guides are listed there.
Yeah, definitely check that guide out. There's so much great information in there. And to go along with it, a few months back, we hosted a couple of webinars specifically on SER, one titled Demystifying SEO. So it's just all about all the, it's kind of the stuff we talked about today, but really expanding on that and figuring out all the things that you need to do to get started with a great SEO strategy. So definitely recommend checking all that stuff out.
And it's specific to photographers too.
Yes,
that's the only thing that's important to keep in mind. I think there are tons and tons of SEO resources out there, but we have done the more kind of focused work of figuring out how it can really impact photographers and their personal workflows.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And last summer, we actually worked directly with Google to make sure that our members can take full advantage of the new image licensing features that they released. So I'm sure most people have heard of this, but basically what this does is it allows for the thumbnails that show up in Google Images to specify that your image is available for licensing if you've placed the appropriate metadata into the appropriate IPTC fields. I believe it's the web statement of rights and or licensor URL IPTC fields. Again, both things can be found on our blog, but Google will show a little badge on the image to help communicate licensing details. This also helps to like reduce accidental theft and just really, increase revenue for our members. This is another little example here of like what you would see if you open up an image from Google Images that has this licensing information associated with it. So really hoping that our members who are interested in licensing their work can take advantage of this, in a big way. All right, number 9, make it easy for buyers to buy. Custom pages. Talk more about your pricing and services on a custom page. What else is new? Christina Peters, we love her. She's an amazing food photographer. We did a couple of webinars with her last year as well. She has an estimate request form embedded on a custom page with just a bunch more information that she wants people to know when they come to her site. And again, more indexable information as well that Google can pick up on, which is great.
And it saves her a ton of time too. I've talked with her about this personally with not having to do this back and forth. She essentially, if someone reaches out, she can even just send them a link and says, hey, here's all my details. I would love to talk more once you've reviewed it. I think it also shows a level of professionalism, but also at the same time, she doesn't want to sort of waste her time going over the exact same 7 questions that a client might have.
That's right. And everything in this section is really focused on setting up your website to be sales forward. So another idea that we've seen again today is to use creative language in your navigation menu to make it just extra clear that your work is available for sale. So this is Lola Akinmade's PhotoShelter website. Very simple. She's just got a shop link in her navigation, but it just takes some of the work out of it. People don't have to go, looking through each gallery to see if there's an add to cart button or how to buy. She's just got a link up there that just makes it extra clear. And Laura McLone here is taking it a step further. I love this example actually, because there's a few reasons why. She's using a nav item to let people know that her work is available to purchase. But this particular nav item also lets people know that she's having a sale, what they're getting a canvas, what it costs is $89. And she's placed it first in her list of navigation items. So I just love this one. I think this is really smart. I would love to follow up with Laura and see how that's working for her. But I think this is a really, really nice idea here. You could also try getting super specific with your gallery titles and names. So again, this one seems really simple, but just very smart. Instead of titling these galleries, air, analog, fitness, ice and snow, he's placed the word Matt Baldelli, he's placed the word stock in front of each one. So when a potential buyer is here looking at his work, they know which galleries have images available to purchase as stock. And again, they don't have to start like looking through every gallery and looking through every image to try to figure out what they can purchase that way. I mean, it's just kind of taking the guesswork out of it for them.
And Matt's also taken a really great approach, I think, with something like this. I know that he's very on top of, keywording and things like that. So if someone did want to search, they certainly, I think, could find photos of trails or waterfalls and stuff like that. But he also has taken, account for people who might just want to see the full breadth of his work. But also mentioning stock, I would say, makes it fairly, obvious that he can license this or someone can buy some of these images.
Yep. Make sure your contact info is easy to find and in multiple places. I love this one because it seems so simple, but it so often gets overlooked. Here's an example on Rob Tringali's PhotoShelter site. This is his contact page where we have like a form that's embedded there where people can contact you directly, but he has smartly taken it a step further by including his location, his phone number, his email address, social handles, and you will see at the bottom of the page in his footer, he's got his location, phone number, email address, and social handles down there too. And that's persistent. That will show up on every page of his site. So he's not making it hard for people to figure out how to get in touch with him, which is the whole point. You want to make it super, super easy for people to contact you if they need to. And this is an example with Julia Robinson's site. She's actually using her about page here, but she kind of combined her contact page and about page. And up in the navigation on the right side, you'll see she's got her contact info up there too. So again, that's like persistent. That's going to show up on every single page of her site. And, buyers may have questions for you. They maybe want to negotiate on something. It's really important that they can contact you without issue, and also really important that you respond quickly. Just another little tidbit there. But if you have one, just as these two photographers did, make sure that you are including a phone number too, because sometimes you never know, buyers could be on a tight deadline and just may rather pick up the phone and get something squared away immediately rather than doing like an email back and forth. So it's just another thing to keep in mind.
We've also recommended if someone does feel uncomfortable listing their phone number publicly, which totally understand.
Yep.
I've definitely recommended that photographers consider getting a Google Voice number. It's totally free to sign up for, and it will just forward to your regular cell phone number. But, if you have any concerns about, putting your phone number out there, that's definitely something just to consider and keep in mind. It's not,
Absolutely.
either or. There's definitely another option out there.
So you can also try asking a friend or maybe a trusted client to buy from your website and ask them what could be better, easier, more clear, and make adjustments. So this is, again, coming back to this whole like marketing is all about testing. You're going to do it a lot. You're going to just try stuff and see what sticks. And if it doesn't, that learning is as valuable as if something did work. Not to move on from that and try something else. So you're just going to start throwing stuff at the wall. And I think getting somebody to come in and look at it from another perspective is really, really important. With PhotoShelter, you can make changes to your website on the fly as needed. And it's really crucial, whoever you're using for your website provider, if not PhotoShelter, give you that freedom so that, again, you can learn from these exercises and you can make changes as needed. You should also be like looking at your analytics and making changes and stuff based on that too. It's also a really good thing to keep in mind. How'd it go in there? Yeah, this is you and your friend when you ask them to go buy from your website. Make sure your buyers can buy from any device. So it's 2021. People are buying on mobile devices. Mobile is pretty much dominating online sales. In 2021, I think I looked at the stat towards the end of 2020. Mobile was predicted to dominate sales 54% or 659 billion of online sales. And this is across industries, but the fact remains that you need to make it easy for people to buy on any device, basically from anywhere. So not only does your website in general need to be mobile friendly, but your shopping cart and the buying experience needs to be mobile friendly and mobile ready as well. We actually just made a host of optimizations to our shopping cart. This was towards the end of 2019. What is time anymore? It feels like it was just yesterday. To make sure that the shopping cart would respond perfectly on all sorts of devices. So again, it's just important that no matter what your buyer is using and where they are, that they can check out. All right, number 10. This is our last one today. Be creative and stay positive. We're going to just get rid of all that negativity and drama and stress and debt, all of it. Be brave in your marketing. And like we said, try new things, see what works best for you and your clients. Tap into your network. We might not all be in lockdown right now anymore, but I think everyone, just from what we've all went through this past year, we're all still kind of yearning for that sense of connection. So it's a great time to just like reach out to your contacts, find out what their needs are, get smart about how you speak to your audience. Promote yourself more on your social media channels. That probably goes without saying. But a couple of examples here. So we've got Ken Bowman Photography. This is on Instagram. And he's using an image of his here to promote the fact that he is having a 50% off sale with free shipping. He's got the promo code in that copy and his URL as well. So this is a nice example of doing that on Instagram.
And he does a lot of local photography too, which is a great place to start if you're really just starting out with sales. He does a lot of, I think he lives in South Carolina, if I recall. And I've talked with him before. He actually brought in a lot of income previously at things like flea markets. He has actually, kind of pre-printed a lot of his stuff and will sell it there. But during the pandemic, he wanted to try this sort of online approach. And I think he did a great job just making sure that he was getting people excited about it. But also under this, I believe he had a lot of really specific sort of location based hashtags that he used. So a lot of people found him through that. And then he also used the location tag at the very top right under his handle. It says Broad Street. So he just kind of came from all different angles. And I do think that this was fairly successful.
That's great. And another thing that we've been seeing lately, people having a bit more success with, is actually LinkedIn as a viable social platform to promote photo sales. This is another example with Lola, where she's promoting both the fact that she's like done a refresh of her website and also the fact that her stuff is available for sale. So this was a nice example of that. But one thing I did want to mention before we move on is a good thing to think about with social media, because it can be a little bit overwhelming, is if you've got your stuff on social now and you're able to kind of track which platforms are working well for you, really pay close attention to that and really hone in on those channels. What is it about the audience? Maybe it's Facebook that's doing well, and maybe Instagram isn't, let's say. So I think, a good thing to think about now, if we're really trying to push for sales, is if Instagram is lacking and Facebook's doing great, put your energy into Facebook right now. And maybe, think about coming back to Instagram at another time. But it's about those learnings, right? Like, again, what is it about the audience on Facebook? What is it about what you're sharing on Facebook and how people are engaging with it on Facebook? You want to really try to dig into that, because social media can be a bit of a beast, just like SEO can. So it can be a little bit overwhelming, but if you really try honing in on the channels that feel like they're working for you, you can find a little bit of success there. And then it's also about trying new things like Lola with LinkedIn as well.
And also, the other thing to keep in mind, and I think that there sometimes this gets kind of pushed to the wayside a lot, but a lot of photographers are totally willing to talk to you about the different approaches that they've taken.
Absolutely.
So if you find someone on Instagram that you feel like has done something really successful, just DM them. I mean, the worst they can say is either I'm not available or, I don't want to tell you my secret or whatever. But I really think a lot of the photography community do want to share, and you're kind of networking even just with that DM. So I do think that it's totally a viable option to just message someone and say, hey, this really caught my eye. I think you're doing a great job. I think if you often lead with a compliment, people will really, help you out.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Okay, and just like what Caitlyn was saying before, using hashtags and geotags and account tags on Instagram can also help buyers find your work. And here's another example of a photographer on Instagram who's using all three. So you can see the account tags there are the tags you see over the image itself, hashtags over there in the comment, and then the geotag up there under the photographer's handle. Because buyers might be looking at any one of these places on Instagram to find work. So definitely consider using all three. Weave photo sales into your next blog post or newsletter. We've talked about that a bit. I think this is also Thomas Fitzgerald. Is that right?
It is. Yeah. This was, I think, right above his Patreon mention.
Got it. Yeah. We've seen a lot of good examples of this. Newsletters are also just a great sort of excuse to keep communicating with your clients, and an easy win just for letting people know what you've got going on.
Great way to make it feel exclusive too. You
Absolutely.
can say it's a deal only for my newsletter subscribers and things like that. So I think as much as you can, make people feel special and like you're giving them something that other people don't get, the better.
Okay, take advantage of the spring cleaning season and have a sale. Just so happens that spring is coming up, but obviously that's just an example. There's lots of ways that you can do this. I mean, studies actually show that the most successful promotions always have a kind of a reason why, even if it's just like there's a holiday or a seasonal thing. It's not just kind of like a promotion for the sake of having a promotion. So again, seasons, holidays, those are kind of like low-hanging fruit, but there are really tons of ways that you can kind of make this work for you. So you want to think about what your reasoning is behind a sale and how you can kind of communicate that to the client as well. If you're lucky enough to have an interview with a publication right now, you can try dropping a hint that your stuff is available for sale there. You can try bartering with a local business or a community message board to see if they would be willing to help promote your online sales. or consider a pay it forward approach and offer a discount for anyone who has proof of a donation to maybe a relief fund or an organization you support. So again, these are just a few examples, but hopefully ones that kind of get the creative juices flowing a little bit. And that's our presentation. So before we take some questions, just a couple of other little things I wanted to mention. We would love for everybody to follow us on social media. Definitely check us out on Instagram or Twitter. We've got a lot of fun stuff going on over there. We do photographer takeovers on Instagram all the time. Just some really amazing photographers and really amazing work. So we would love for you to check that out. If you enjoyed today's webinar, we're hosting webinars all the time at PhotoShelter. Our next one is coming up on March 12th, a visual storytelling masterclass with this amazing photographer, Caroline Gutman. Caitlyn has been working directly with Caroline, so I'll let her talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you will see my face again if you attend. I'm hosting this with Caroline, but she has a really great background actually in international studies and economics. And when she was actually traveling as a Fulbright scholar, she was, I believe, in China and really started falling in love with photography and using a lot of her photos to kind of back up what she was saying in some of her written work. And so she's actually made the full transition to just doing visual storytelling through her photography. So she's just got a lot of little tricks and tips and things like that. And, the webinar is totally free. It's available even if you're not a PhotoShelter member. And generally they're really great. They have a lot of people attend, a lot of great questions. And I would love to see everybody there.
That's great. Yeah, just another really great way to learn from the community and connect with the community. So we'd love to have everybody.
And I can also, I just realized we don't have a link to the webinar sign up, so I can give that to Travis and Deb. That's just great. To make sure that everybody has that as well.
Awesome. And we did mention the PhotoShelter blog a couple times today. Definitely check that out as well. As I mentioned, tons of information on what we've been doing with SEO over there, some info on our recent photo quote update. It's just more general like industry news stuff, upcoming webinars. You can find a lot of great info on the blog. So we really hope that you check that out. Now, for those of you who are not PhotoShelter members or not familiar with PhotoShelter, we're actually running a promotion through the end of the day tomorrow for a 14-day free trial plus 40% off your first year, which is a great deal. Again, Travis gave me a wonderful introduction in the beginning about PhotoShelter, but just for a quick little bit on what PhotoShelter does. At our core, we give professional photographers easy ways to show, sell, deliver, and organize their photos all from one place. So it's all about kind of having all the tools you need in one central location. Forget about the third-party, apps and extra tools that actually don't look like your branded environment. You want to have everything together: your website, file delivery, sales, and all of your photos all together in one place. So we hope everybody will check PhotoShelter out. That promo code is FEB2021, and you can head over to photoshelter.com. Our pricing page has the promo code field, so please take a look at that. And if you are an APA member, we have a special deal just for you. You can connect with Travis or Deborah after this call, and they can give you that special code or tell you where to find it.
Guys, that's absolutely incredible. And I think one of the special things about PhotoShelter is that it's the amount of tools that you provide photographers with. And I know that one of the craziest things, like I told you, I joined up with PhotoShelter years and years ago.
Yes.
And I've lost hard drives, I've lost things, and I realized with PhotoShelter, I have photos there that I forgot I had, and we're talking full RAW up there that I can download that are saved, and it's that extra security of a cloud backup that is unbelievable. And nowadays with Google upping their prices and all this deep stuff, there's just so much that you guys offer, and it's really kind of incredible that when you're talking about the pricing tool. And I know one of the questions people that I had here was the quote info. How is that integrated? And do you have to be a subscriber? And how is that integrated in the quotes on the pricing quotes that you're kind of delivering this tool for the subscribers?
Yeah. Well, you have to be a PhotoShelter member, obviously, but you don't need to purchase anything extra with PhotoQuote. That stuff is completely integrated into the system and is free for all PhotoShelter members to use. So if you're a member of our platform, you have full access to that PhotoQuote pricing grid and the ability to license rights managed using that software. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another thing that someone wanted to ask is, and they're kind of going to the rights management and royalty free and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And they were very curious on like, can you set certain photos just one or the other, and certain photos both, or should you do one or
Great
the other? And
question.
they're kind of wondering what are the options of
Yeah,
doing that?
yeah, great question. Because the two licensing types conflict with one another, you actually can't price one image in both ways, one single file in both ways. It's really up to you to decide which images would be best served rights managed and which would be best served royalty free. You can certainly have some galleries in one and some galleries in another, but you wouldn't be pricing the same image with both.
And one thing that I'll also add is I think a lot of photographers who aren't sure, like, again, that's another opportunity to experiment a little bit.
Mhm.
Try to have one, that one image priced as rights managed for 6 months, see how it does, or for a year. And then if that's not working out, try it as royalty free. I mean, there's no harm, I think, in experimenting a little bit. And you certainly also can make it clear somewhere on your site that if somebody has any questions, they can contact you. If you're in the sort of
Yep.
royalty free 6 month period and someone messages you and says, hey, I want to, license this, but I need it to be rights managed, there you go. There are opportunities, I think, to, again, inform your buyer outside of, whether or not they sort of know what they want.
That's amazing.
Yep.
I definitely have more questions. Some are outside of the box of PhotoShelter, but you guys cover so many things. But I know Deborah also has one question, so I'm going to go throw it to
Okay.
Deborah for a quick second.
Sure.
I wanted to ask also along the lines of royalty free and rights managed. For people who aren't aware, if you have images designated royalty free, are there some clients that you're sort of giving up, like high-end clients who definitely have to have things rights managed?
Yeah, that is a good question. That very well may be the case. I think this is where this ease of being able to contact you comes into play, because if you're selling something royalty free, it's kind of tricky, because if you've already sold a bunch of royalty free licenses on a particular image, then switching to rights managed can be slightly dicey, just because some clients have ability to use it forever, and then other clients only have the ability to use it in one way. It's not like you can't do that, but I think if a client were to contact you and say, like, I need this in this very specific way, you can change that on the fly within PhotoShelter and set it up for rights managed licensing instead, if you've got a client who has a particular use case. So
And that's where that
the instant sale, yeah,
sale really comes into play. If someone has a very specific need, and this isn't necessarily just with licenses, this could be a print size that you don't offer. Someone asks, hey, can I get this in a canvas instead of glossy finish, things like that. That's really where the instant sale, all of these like one-off instances that I think people often have. Again, it makes you look really professional if you can say, absolutely, I can make that work, and I'm going to send you an email with an invoice. You've done that within 15 minutes. I think that makes you a great person to, for them to have in your back pocket, for sure.
Yeah. And what's great about that tool too is that as soon as they get that email with that's like run through the instant sale feature, they click a button and it takes them right into your shopping cart to purchase. So it just ties it all right back to your website, which is great.
So someone, in terms of all these different, this kind of ties into what we were just discussing about doing multiple things and stuff like that. Someone want to know if you have a gallery to show a client, and then you have a gallery pages to sell your work, can you have different, things to show different people? Can you set it up differently, or does it have to be two separate websites? Like what's the customization in showing one thing to one certain person and one thing to another person?
Yeah, that's a great question too. We do have a lot of people who do different types of photography and maybe don't want some clients seeing some stuff and they don't want other clients seeing some stuff. If you let's say you do weddings and then you also do like commercial work and you just really don't want to like blend the two, the best thing there really is to have two separate sites. You can have everything on one PhotoShelter site and have some private galleries and have some public galleries, but if you want to completely separate those two things, so far as like to separate the brands of those two things, then it's probably best to have two separate sites, would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
But there are some ways to customize with one site and kind of get at what you're after.
Yeah, and certainly you can really play with that private links.
Yeah, the unlisted.
Unlisted links and stuff like that.
Yeah,
there's so many different options. It's incredible. So this is sort of outside the box, and maybe you can add a little to it. But person asked, can you talk about model releases for selling images with people on them? And the short answer to that is if you're doing a commercial, if someone wants to buy something commercial and you don't have a model release, don't do it. That's the short answer. But in terms of like when you're obviously having, people put stock photos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything with the model releases or address that at all? Or is it just you should do your due diligence and not do it?
I think like I would be most comfortable saying you should do your due diligence on that. We do have a feature within PhotoShelter to mark whether or not things have been model released so that people will know that right off the bat. But as far as understanding like what should be and what shouldn't be, as the photographer, you're going to need to like really, like you said, do the due diligence. I know that we've got some great info on our blog too from Alan, our co-founder and chairman, on model releasing as well. So it's something you can search on the PhotoShelter blog for some extra info too.
There are definitely some horror stories, I think, that we've covered that are great. I think only back up that you really should do your due diligence for sure.
Right.
And if you, for any reason, model, do your due diligence in that case as well.
Exactly.
So someone had a question, which is it's a great question. Does the self-fulfillment mean that you send the prints to us and then we repackage and send to the buyer? Is that photographers do in order to sign prints? Which, well, not really, but that also brings me to a follow-up question on that is, well, I'll let you answer that first part.
Yeah. So self-fulfillment is actually more like you're going to receive the order and then take it to a lab yourself. So maybe you have a local lab that you work with that you trust and you just like prefer to use that lab. That's a great case for self-fulfillment. The lab can give the order back to you and then you can handle the packaging and send it to your client. Whereas with automated fulfillment, the orders are going to go to the lab. They're going to handle printing, shipping, and you're going to be able to kind of stay out of it a little bit. We also have a feature, within PhotoShelter that if you have a lab that you work with that you love, you can ask them to join our print vendor network and you can actually send the orders to them through PhotoShelter. So it doesn't have to be quite as hands-off, but still not quite as hands-on as automated. So hopefully that answers the question.
No, it does. And the one way I use you guys is when I do self-fulfillment. I have two very large printers at home and I specialize in certain art papers. And I say, if you want a custom print by me up to this size, that's when I would self-fulfill it myself and send it off instead of sending it to a lab. It's a very specialized print. It's, so I kind of do it that way. Now, if someone wanted to set up a store, say like I want to sell not only the sending, self-automated prints from the lab, say Miller's or whatever, Big Photo or Adorama, which you guys use, which is great. Then can I have a landing page that will sell those prints, but also maybe I want to sell maybe some of my own printed stuff and maybe a t-shirt. Can I set it up to sell my own t-shirts on that as well? Or is it that's something I have to program in, or is it how do you do something like that?
Yeah, I think so. We have we work with a bunch of different labs for automated fulfillment that each offer lots of different products. I don't know if t-shirts is something on our product list right now.
My own t-shirts, and I wanted to
your own t-shirts.
I have my own stuff at home. Like I sell my own like t-shirt and also like camera straps, but I also sell prints and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can I have a landing
you
page
can do that.
Directly my t-shirt through that, but also a self-automated print.
Sure. You can set that up. You would basically be taking a photo of the item that you want to sell and set it up, upload it to PhotoShelter and apply a self-fulfillment pricing profile to it. Right alongside an image that you're going to send right to one of our labs. So you can totally do that.
Yeah, and you're setting up, your prices, but also one thing we haven't really mentioned with sales is it also allows you to set, the tax for all of that. So, we're not tax professionals, but I do think that there's a lot of value in having all, if not as many of your sales as possible under, one roof in terms of tracking everything and keeping everything, in order. So we definitely do have people, I think, who will sell things that are really specialized. Some people have, photo books that they've purchased and they're all sitting in their house, but they want to sell them. And that's another great example, I think, of people who, want the opportunity maybe to sell the book and, make it clear that they're maybe limited edition, that kind of thing. But really sky's the limit, I think, in terms of what
if it's a signed book or something like that, you really have to self-fulfill it. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. But sky's the limit in terms of as long as you're okay with marking things as that self-fulfilled, option, you can really price anything you want.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to work in postage and all that kind of stuff as an add-on.
If you're doing self-fulfillment, you can set up the shipping and all that on your own too. Yeah.
Sure. Someone snuck in a Google question here. They want to know, if you don't have a studio, is there a way to use Google Business without entering your home address? That's really not a photo question.
Oh, I actually don't know the answer to that question, but that is a good question.
Yeah,
I think it does require.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it does require one.
The way around that, I believe, is to put your own home address and not list business as a structure, which you
Got
can
it.
do. Yeah. Let's see. We did that one. It was recently suggested to me that when I put my contact info, I should not put the @ symbol because of bots and spamming. Does
Oh.
PhotoShelter do anything to automatically kind of address the bots or anything like that?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. We do through the contact form. If you recall the page that we showed earlier where you could see the contact form embedded on somebody's site. We do some work to get rid of spam there. But if you just have like your email address written in plain text, that is a really good question. That's something I would love to actually talk to our devs about.
And one thing that I'll say with that is I know that we also have, a CAPTCHA on that form. So any initial, like very easy bots to spot are fine. But a lot of, because we have the customizable options, if, you were to have your email in the top right corner, I've certainly seen people do, Caitlyn brackets @ written out, PhotoShelter.com. And because you can make that a clickable link, that can still have the regular like mail to, and then your full email. So it's still an option, but to be honest, I haven't heard that as too much of an issue.
Yeah.
And what I like about you guys is, because one of the things I really kind of say is, the forms that people fill out are nice, but when you're dealing with, people in the industry, they don't want to fill out a form. So you want to have both. You want to be able to have a clickable email address or clickable IG links, because what they want to do is they want to start a thread. They don't want to start a form thing. They want to know instantly that it was done and they have a thread. So it's really important what you guys do to put that email hard link in there, which is fantastic. And it's a great thing to use.
And I actually ran into that same issue, Travis, the other day. We were trying to license a photo and a photographer didn't have her email listed. But I had already, made kind of like a photo agreement and that I was trying to send to her as an attachment. And it definitely took, probably a day longer than it should have just for her to find that, get back to me answer with my original email, all of that. So anything you can do to cut down those steps as I will say, as the receiver of, on the other end of a lot of the photographer communications, the better.
Yeah. There's some other good questions here. I could answer these questions because I use you guys so much, but I'm gonna let you guys. Can
we love it. Feel free to keep coming.
Can PhotoShelter give you a sales report including tax paid? Not only can it do stuff like that, but can you talk about some of the other back end stuff and reports and like email stuff and all the stuff that you can do, generate and do in the back end of PhotoShelter too?
Yeah. So we do have an area within PhotoShelter where you can see all of your sales invoices, all of that historical data is there. Same thing for like, if you're actually, not to come away from sales for a sec, but if you are giving let's say you happen to like handle the sale offline and now you're giving somebody downloads through PhotoShelter that would be considered free. You also have a download log. So you can see exactly, who downloaded what, and you can export that as well. We are actually looking into kind of beefing up some of the more like reporting side of sales and really just the sales tools in general, because we want to, as great as our sales tools are, we just always have to kind of stay with the times and keep updating and keep innovating. So I think this is actually a big request from our tech support team too, is giving people more access to more of the like reporting and historical data for the sales that they're running through PhotoShelter. But yeah, I would definitely recommend, like, if you use PhotoShelter, checking out that sales invoices area where like everything will be. And that's also where you would see if you were selling prints with one of our automated vendors, you can set it up so that you review the order before it goes to the lab. So even if you want things hands off and you want the lab to complete it, you get to still have a chance to like review it and approve it before it goes to the lab. So you would come to that same area.
People might try and fill in some crops or turn it black and white.
Yeah, the cropping is actually the thing. Yeah.
The cropping you can upgrade the packaging of it, send it in a nice, a nicer envelope or a nicer,
right.
little.
Maybe the buyer cropped it in a way and they didn't mean to, and the photographer gets a chance to see that and fix it. So that's a great tool to check out too.
What someone else had put, which I can answer this one. Let's see. How can we link directly to PhotoShelter from IG or Facebook? Well, with IG, you want to put link in bio, but for Facebook,
Definitely.
do you guys, how do you guys suggest kind of advertising and putting out your links for websites across different social platforms?
That's a good question. Yeah,
I can maybe handle that
sure.
if you don't mind, Reiss.
Sure. Yeah, take it.
I would say that honestly the best thing to do is to actually make a separate like business account on Facebook, because that allows you also to share your work and to talk about things like promos and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I do also know that within Facebook, in your bio, there is an option to list just like a website URL. I think that is still kind of a common option, but I personally don't think that it's sort of obvious enough for it to just be on your like personal Facebook. So I definitely encourage everybody to go the more like business account route.
Mhm.
You certainly can. You don't have to like sign in and sign out if you're jumping between your business account and your personal Facebook, but it definitely, I think, also makes you look a little bit more professional, and
Right.
is a huge opportunity for you to get people to comment on your stuff and like your stuff, and just have that level of communication sort of separate from your personal.
Yeah.
Another thing that's a good goals to have, if you set up your Instagram as a business account and you get up to 10,000 subscribers, you can put link in bio and swipe up to
Yes.
link. So
Mhm.
you can do a swipe up. You can say, if you say, it's like, oh, you want to buy this print on Instagram, or you want to see more prints like it, swipe up for more, and it'll send
Right.
directly to that. So which is really kind of a great tool to use.
Yeah. And on Facebook, I would just add too, like keep posting links to your website, like photos from your website that link back there. Continue posting your work where people can click directly through to your site. So just kind of,
Yeah.
it's good practice to just keep that up.
One of the question we have is when you use automated vendors, do they collect the tax or are they collecting the tax and you need to report that later?
So you would be, if you're taxing your buyers, you would actually be setting that up through PhotoShelter, and you would kind of be handling that, transacting with your buyer one-on-one, kind of outside of us and outside of the lab. So yeah, the lab stays out of the tax part of it for the most part.
And that is
One of the
something sorry, go ahead, Travis.
No, I was just going to say, one of the great things about those galleries, you said you can set your own price. And what's great about it
Mhm.
is when you're setting up the self-fulfillment, you're seeing what the lab is charging you. So you're just setting your price above that to get the
Exactly.
profit. So automatically, well, if they're charging me $1.98 for a 4x6 print, I charge $5. I know what I'm getting back in profit, or what I need to charge.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I said for the most part is because we do work with Loxley in the UK, and there is like VAT associated with that. So if you're in the UK, that's something to consider too. But I think they're the only one that has any like extra stipulation like that.
I think gives me a question. Brings a question to mind to me. So you can have someone in England order a print, and you'll just use that printer instead of Printique.
Well, you would have to be set up to work with that printer already. So if somebody happened to find your work and you were set up to sell through Printique, they would still be ordering it through Printique. So yeah, it's something like, you might come across that for sure, especially if you're trying to bring in, future clients, people you don't know yet. But if you have a good understanding of your client base and you know where people are, then you can also make some decisions based on what lab to use, based on that.
And I've also seen some photographers who are US based who will use the like description field just to say, are you based in the UK? Like, email me. I have a UK printer, but it's, I'd say 9 out of 10 of their sales are based in the US. So they want, those sales to go through a US based printer.
And what's great is you can set up different pricing profiles with different vendors. So say I shot something in England, I know the client's in England, I can set the profile automatically to that vendor, or I can set it to a US vendor. I can set it, it'll ask me what profile I want to set it to.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Travis knows stuff.
I use it. I love it. I just say
Great.
Good question here. Other than making images searchable with pricing, are there any specifics to allow licensing via PhotoShelter?
Any other specific things you would need to do to get that set up? Well, the searchability is more about making sure that people can find your work both through search engines, and also if they were to come to your site and want to do a search, you just want to make sure that everything's publicly searchable for those reasons. But to get set up, you're basically, just a little bit of background on how it works. You're uploading your photos into PhotoShelter. You're creating pricing profiles. That's what we call them at PhotoShelter. And then once you have pricing profiles created, and with Rights Manage, it's actually probably the easier one to create because you're not necessarily setting the prices yourself. You're letting the photo quote software do that. You then just decide which images you want to apply that pricing profile to. And once you've done that, your stuff is available for sale. On your website, there will be an add to cart link or an add to cart button or a little shopping cart button, depending on what template you're using for anything that you've applied a pricing profile to. So it's actually pretty simple to get set up. It's a little bit more time consuming if you're not sure how to price yet, or whether or not you should be offering prints or downloads. And there might be a little bit of background work, as far as that's concerned. But once you're ready to do it, the setup is actually pretty quick.
I mean, if it wasn't kind of obvious, I mean, it's like you look at so many different people that put together these type of places where you can build a website or host yourself. What is so amazing about you guys, and I hate to make this sound like a pitch, but it's just the truth, is that when you have a company that is putting so much into the SEO part of it, which, if you pay that up, just that on the side is more than a monthly or yearly pay, and adding to the raw storage and photo storage, that alone, if you're talking about, all the benefits of the stuff that you're adding on top of just hosting a kick-ass site, it's really amazing. Everything you're getting packaged up in, even at the top tier, I think is like $47, and that's unlimited raw uploads. I mean, it's just
any file type, any size.
And it is true unlimited. I mean, that's the other thing. A lot of people say unlimited, but we really mean it. I mean, there are people that have terabytes and terabytes of photos saved with
raw
that.
Photos.
Just like you said, Travis, we've heard many a horror story, I think, of people who have unfortunately lost hard drives, or hard drives have failed them. And we have all of it. And a fun, I think, fact about us is that we actually do all of the storage ourselves. Some of the guys who started PhotoShelter, we don't use Amazon Web Services. We actually manage our servers in-house. And for every one photo that's uploaded to PhotoShelter, we have 4 copies of it. So if for any reason something got lost, which nothing actually ever has gotten lost, but they've got a backup plan and then 2 more backup plans to that, just to ensure everybody's stuff is uber safe.
Yeah. Someone just wanted a little more information on the PhotoShelter searchable are the images searchable via Google Images, and are they SEO friendly?
Are images that you upload to PhotoShelter findable via Google Images? Yes, for sure. As long as you are, doing your SEO work, you've got your stuff keyworded, you have your stuff marked as publicly searchable. It's not like an on-off switch, like you upload your images and you mark them as searchable and you search Google that moment. That's unfortunately not how it works. It does take time sometimes for things to show up, but absolutely. And that's why the image licensing stuff was so important to us to be a part of, because our members' work is already showing up in Google Images. So now we need to make sure that people know that work is available for sale. And that's what we really spent a lot of time working with Google on this past summer.
I don't know if you can answer this, but maybe you can, because some things are under works or whatever. So someone wanted to know if there are new website templates coming out. They've been waiting patiently for some new templates. So
there are. I've been waiting patiently too. There are new templates.
Maybe less coming. Patiently on our end. We're very eager.
We're chomping at the bit from the marketing side. Yes, there are new templates coming. Actually, a whole new site builder is coming. We're just kind of like, our product team has kind of reimagined that experience, and we're really excited for what's coming out. It has taken a little bit longer than we've planned, I think, because they decided to kind of start over with the tech and make it something that's like way more modern and just way cooler than what we had, frankly. So I'm really excited for that to come out. It's probably going to be a couple more months before we see that come to life, just to be totally real with everybody. But we're working hard on it. And again, I can personally attest to the fact that we probably ask about it every day. What's going on? Let's get it. So
very
excited for it. Yeah.
I'd say you guys gave us a lot more than 10 tips in this. So I want to thank you so much for your time. And I really look forward to actually hosting a bunch of more of these with you guys, because there's just, we've only touched the surface on how much that there is.
Very
you
true.
can upgrade and do, and under the, as they say, under the hood, that PhotoShelter is so capable in ways that even I haven't even figured out all yet. So I'm really excited.
Hopefully we can do more of these with y'all. Thank you so much for having us. This is great.
We're doing a whole series with you guys.
It is set in stone.
I think there's so many things from even SEO that people are so kind of, because you say that, and it's like, I guarantee you 90% of the people don't do it correctly, or don't know how to do it. And it sounds like that scary thing. Like, I don't even know where to start. So
it does seem intimidating.
Yeah, and it's very important.
It is.
And I think just stuff like that, and also building a site that is maybe you want to have your own store, and really kind of have that's
Right.
be able to take money, and you have that's the key right there, is to be able to sell stuff on your site. And people don't like that first step on how do I do it. It's like, do you guys offer, like, who do I do the banking with? How do I handle the money? It's like, it's all that is kind of built in, and you can do it so seamlessly
Yeah.
and easily. It's like, and the truth of the matter is, you can probably get up a site within a day, no problem, and then customize it and do all this great stuff.
Yeah.
But if we do kind of bite-sized things on how to build a website, or how to do online sales, how to do SEO, all these are great things I think we can do in the future. And I think it just helps everybody, because it doesn't matter if you're doing with PhotoShelter or not. You should be, because it's all there, but it's going to help you either way learn all this.
Absolutely.
Also, speaking of money, for the 40% discount, is there a deadline for taking advantage of that?
Yeah, that actually expires end of day tomorrow, but I'm going to go ahead and let it run through the weekend. So you can have it through, let's say, end of day Monday. I'll leave it open for everybody.
If you miss it, you just join APA, which is,
There you go.
and then if you go to apanational.org, you can go to the members benefits section, and we have a fantastic. I won't tease people here, but we have a great discount. We're so lucky to have it with you guys, and we're really kind of, and it's in perpetuity. So you get to, it's not just
that's right.
So, which is really great.
This was really inspiring. This was really fun.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Well, thank you all for inviting us, and for the great questions too. We really love hearing what people are asking about.
We look forward to doing the next one. Thank you so much for your time and all the information. It was really a lot of fun.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.